This Never Throw in the Towel podcast episode is brought to you by UKIM Occupational Health and Wellbeing. They are a healthcare service company with a clear commitment of breaking the stigma and breaking the silence around conversations about mental health. Their mission is to try and tackle the problem with the nation's sick economy with the aim to keep people in work. I just want to say a huge thank you to UKIM for getting behind the Never Throw in the Towel podcast, which is conversations around mindset, mental health, and physical health, with the message of resilience, never giving in, and never throwing in the towel. Our aim is to help and inspire. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the Never Throw in the Towel podcast. So, our guest today, I came across our guest a few weeks ago at a CEO sleep out, and our guest was the guest speaker, and along with all of the audience, I was absolutely blown away by this man's honesty and story, and felt we have to get him on the podcast to listen to his story. Everyone in the room was standing clapping. So introducing the ex-IBF Cruiserweight world champion, the first man from the Northeast to ever be the world champion. He went on to have an extremely successful as a Sky Sports pundit, guest speaker. He's from my neck of the woods, well, nearly, Stanley. I'm a concert lad originally, but Glenn McCrory, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so...
It's great to be anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I tell you what, you
stuck in the house for 4 years.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, you know, you're showing us up with your attire. You're looking sharp as a dart today.
Well, Stanley lads, you know what I mean?
I'm very impressed with Stanley lads.
We're renowned for our...
For a DH9, now that's very good. But before we kind of get on to the initial story that I kind of mentioned when you were a guest speaker when we met at St. James's Park, just I want to hear your story of like when you were a young lad and what was the nudge that kind of like got you into boxing and stuff, and how old were you when you got into it?
5 boys in one bedroom, 3 in a bed. You've got to be able to fight, haven't you? So
yeah, was that the siblings? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm obviously one of 7 kids. To be fair, football was always, you know, from the Northeast. Football was always first, and I was a good footballer. I played for the district. And then I got a trial for Sunderland alongside Barry Venison. I thought, well, football career's no good, so I'm never going to play for them. So I remember as a kid, I loved sport. I was a good athlete. 100 long jump, 100, 200 long jump. I won all them sort of things, represented the area. So I was a good athlete. But one day in the house, the TV was on, and there was a fight coming on, and it was... incidentally, 50 years ago, and it was the Rumble in the Jungle, and it was Muhammad Ali, George Foreman,
nice.
and Muhammad Ali was on, and I remember he was supposed to get destroyed and killed.
Yeah.
Big George Foreman, who was defeating everybody, and Muhammad Ali just put on the craziest performance in the world, sat on the ropes and did all this, come off the ropes and knocked him out. And I was just hooked out. And so it was Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali just captured my imagination. And if you think, you know, where we're from, it was pretty depressing in those days. Concert Steelworks was just belching out all the dust and the smoke and all that, and the mines at Anfield Plain and Stanley were all in order, and there was no future for us. You know, my future was going down a mine or in the steelworks, and it was a pretty depressing place. So Muhammad Ali took me away from there, took my imagination somewhere else. You know, made me think there's more to the world, and just made me think I want to be champion of the world. And all I wanted to be was Muhammad Ali, and that was me. Hooked.
Yeah, and the only thing is though, it's like, you know, you can be a sporting lad, but I think boxing it's absolutely a sport. But it's also a fight, and obviously getting punched in the face and stuff.
Yeah.
How did how did you feel when you got into it? Were you kind of like all over it? Did you love that kind of like combat?
Do you know, when I first walked in the gym, there's obviously very few gyms about, and the only gym was Concert. So it was I boxed for Concert Amateur Boxing Club, and I walked in the sports centre at Concert, and I'll never forget opening the doors and just seeing, because it just seemed, my whole childhood seemed like it was black and white. It was so depressing. And then opened the doors to the gym, and everything was in colour. It's just, people had like shiny vests, red vests and blue shorts and boxing boots, and it was like, whoa! And my whole world opened up. It just became colour, and so that was it. That was, it was for them. It was just all systems go. So I started I got my first fight as a 15-year-old. I was national champion at 16.
Right.
So I made very, very quick progress, and I loved it. It was so exciting. And I think problems that I've had in later life, you could see why I was drawn to boxing because of that excitement.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That gave me something that has been taken away now, and then the problems all come in.
Yeah. What's random actually, and I've literally just came into my head when we're talking. Like, so I'm a Concert lad, and obviously
the McCrories are all Concert.
Yeah. Well, I always remember going into the sports centre, and your photo was up, wasn't it? It was up in it was when you were obviously a young lad when you were just coming up.
Yeah.
It was. I think it might have been a black and white photo. I'm sure.
Probably.
Yeah. No,
that black and white camera.
No disrespect there in regards to your age, but no, I actually remember seeing your photo was on the wall.
It was.
Yeah, that's it's yeah. So that's a bit of a mad bit
I was
of
the
nostalgia.
first national champion from the area.
Were you?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then, kind of like, what did it come apparent? Like, when did it start? Becoming really serious, where you actually kind of like there was a dream where you thought, I actually want to pursue this as a career.
The moment I saw that fight from Muhammad Ali, that
really?
was anything I wanted. Everything I wanted was to be a world champion, and that was it. And when I went to school and at careers, it would be like, right, what sort of job are you going to have? I'm going to be champion of the world. Right, get out. Stop being stupid. That was exactly what happened. That was all I was going to be, champion of the world.
Yeah,
and I think, through some tough times, that constant belief of you're going to be world champion. And then years later, when I was 19, I'd started as a pro. I boxed in front of Muhammad Ali.
No way.
I boxed in front of Muhammad Ali at the Grosvenor Hotel. I didn't know he was there, and he was there, and so I had to do the Ali shuffle and all that. I
can imagine that looking different to Muhammad Ali's.
It was like, because I loved him that much. I wanted to let him know that this skinny little kid from Stanley thought so much of him. And,
did you do it during the fight?
Yeah, I did do the fight. I was a pro. It was my 5th pro fight, and so I won the fight. Afterwards, Jarvis Astaire, who's the promoter, popped his head in the door. He said, "McCrory, come on down. Muhammad Ali wants to meet you."
No way.
No way. Honestly, Muhammad Ali was just, because I was a bit nervous because you'd seen all the I loved him, but you'd seen all the press about his relationship with Malcolm X and the black Muslims, and so he had at that time he had a bit of a different persona. So I was a bit worried, and I came down. He said, "Man, you're so good. You're so pretty. You're prettier than me." he was absolutely. I was just a young kid, 19-year-old, and he's like, "Come here, man. I need a picture with this man. He's got to be champion of the world. This is the next champion of the world." So during some tough times with my career, when my career went really bad, I always had that belief that Muhammad Ali said I was going to be world champion.
Wow.
He's not wrong. He's never wrong. So it was a magical thing. that just shows you what sports people, how they can inspire youngsters, because the fact that he just took the time for a young kid.
You just mentioned there though before that, like, you just were telling people that you're going to be world champion, and I think that's a lot of traits in really, really successful people who went on to do amazing things. Some people might actually think that they're deluded, whereas they've went, no, I'm going to be world champion. Whereas a run-of-the-mill person might think, well, what's he on about? But that complete, like, one-dimensional.
Even my dad, even my dad, who's obviously loved me to bits, but even my dad thought I was deluded. It was that. He'd say, like, come on, put your dreams down. Let's think about where you're gonna, what you can achieve. Yeah. And that was all through my life. It was
a lad from Anfield, but you can almost understand it to a certain extent, because a young lad from Anfield playing before. A young lad from Anfield playing from the northeast, never ever been done. So it's almost kind of like almost logical. But like you said, that I think really successful people who go on to do extremely amazing things, they've actually the self-belief, and that's why I think it's really good. The podcasts about mental health and getting through adversity. And I think we can get a lot of value from kind of fighters, really, because it's a lonely sport. It's very highs and lows, and and you've got to have to be a fighter. You've got to have a certain type of mindset.
Yeah. And you talked about your management briefly as well, as you went through your pro career. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
I got a chance to be managed by Doug Bidwell, who was Al Minter's manager in London, which seemed, it's great, we're in the big time. The problem is, Alan had a great trainer. Doug decided that he would train me. I'd be, so I didn't have a trainer. He trained me. He was an electrician. So so that started off. And to be honest, my first fight, which set me going. My first fight was in Mayfair on Al Minter Sporting Club dinner, big black tie dinner, and that was my debut. And I was light heavyweight, so I'd just come back at boxing in America, beating New York Golden Gloves, and I was 12 stone 6. 4 months later, I'm fighting my first pro fight as a heavyweight against Barry Ellis, who was about 15 and a half stone. And he'd had 3 fights and won all 3. And I was thinking, like, this is crazy, man. So I think it was pure fear, but I knocked Barry Ellis out in 90 seconds. Wow. So that the back page of The Sun the next morning was Colin Hart, and it was Glenn McCrory, the white Bruno, the sweetest left hook since Henry Cooper, and I was an overnight superstar.
Really?
So I was made. So any chances of being a light heavyweight, which I was then, were blown out the window, and I was put straight in as a heavyweight.
Oh, really?
So Doug Bidwell then, saw the gold in potential. So then he just sort of went flat out, training me and doing all that. But the big part of what he thought he had to do as a trainer, because obviously he wasn't a trainer, was just beef me up, just make me into a heavyweight. So I remember one newspaper article, one of the Nationals had my breakfasts, and it was bacon and eggs and sausages and black pudding and washed down by 3 pints of gold top milk every day.
Really?
So you could just, I could tell by my fights. I was winning fights. I won my first 13 fights as a heavyweight. I was just getting slower and cumbersome, and things were just starting to go. Things were starting to get hard, and I was getting paid pennies, and I was in digs, and I was getting paid hundreds of pounds, and other guys were getting thousands. And I was thinking, this is not right. And then I thought it got so bad. I thought I've had enough, and I came back home. He fixed me a fight with John Westgarth on short notice, and John was a big, big, strong, much older, mature guy, and it was a fight. Every fight I had was against a tougher opponent. Every fight and I came to the Northeast. I had a lot of bad stuff going on personally with had to get married. I had a baby on the way and all this sort of stuff. So my life was, things were starting to go bad. I took the fight with John Westgarth and got knocked out in Newcastle.
Oh, really?
And that was just devastating because, my career, I was now up at something like 14 and a half, 15 stone. And in a year and a half, I just put on all this. So then Doug Bidwell thought, well, we're gonna.
And were you the headline? Was it kind of like the homecoming fight?
The whole of the Northeast were there, and because I'd went to London, I was seen as like the Flash. They just thought I didn't have any money, but they just thought, he's sold out for money in the Northeast and all that. So the whole of the Northeast, my beloved Northeast. This is in we're fought in Newcastle. The whole crowd were on their feet cheering.
Right.
And were you a favourite to win the fight as well?
I probably was, yeah. Cause I was 13 and 0. But
really?
My whole publicity had all been like the flash guy who it's all sold out the area. So to see
that must
to
have
be
been
on
hard.
to be on the floor and then see that everybody cheering for somebody else was just devastating. So I came back home. I came back to the Northeast. Didn't have a gym, didn't have a trainer. And he just matched me up. So that my next 5 fights, I boxed the European champion, the British. He just threw me in, 3 days' notice, a week's notice, just to cash out, just
really,
to grab his money back.
Right.
So I lost 5 out of 6 fights.
Right.
So my career, 20-year-old, 5 out of 6 fights I lost, and that was it. I was finished. I was career over. 20 years of age.
So after going 13 and 0. You lost 5 out of your next 6.
Out of my next 6.
No way.
And that was a big bump back down to earth.
But it was all because I was out of shape. I was in the Northeast without a gym. I didn't have a gym. I was training in my living room and doing trying to do bits of training, still trying to keep the weight up and all that, still believing what they were telling me that I was a heavyweight.
And were you kind of like what was the lifestyle kind of did that go kind of like skew with, or were you?
I was unemployment benefits, so I was on the dole.
Right.
So
wow.
Yeah, so it was tough. We got thrown out of a house. Me and my then wife and my daughter. We had to get evicted from our house. So it was just one of those terrible times. And I remember coming up to my dad and just saying, "That's it. I'm finished." You know what I mean? And I was 20 years of old, and my dad said, "Yeah, you're probably right." Now, I had a little brother that we'd fostered and my mum adopted who was disabled, David. And I remember that day him climb. He was mad at me because he loved the boxing. He was mad when I said that. He went to climb up the stairs and fell down the stairs, cut his eye, and then turned around and started going back up the stairs. And it was that never, don't throw in the towel. It was that to seeing a young boy who was disabled keep trying was just was my inspiration, and he was my inspiration, throughout my life. David was, because he would never give up. And his body was deteriorating all the time, and he was just, we were watching him die day by day, and he would never give up. He just kept going. So it was kind of like, give yourself a slap. You've got to do that. And then I one night I didn't feel very well, and I'd ate my Maltesers and my chocolate drink and
bit of comfort eating.
Yeah, all the rubbish that I was eating that I thought was okay.
Right.
I mean, keep my weight up. I went and I threw up and threw up and threw up and threw up for about 3 days. I was so ill. You almost had a sickness bug or something. And then I remember getting up and thinking, I look skinny. I got on the scales and I must have lost 1.5 stone being ill, and I thought, I feel good. I feel good.
James Brown didn't come on, did he?
And then it's at that time, the weight division had come in cruiserweight.
Right.
Because it was light, heavy, and then heavy. And the new weight division had come in, dominated by Evander Holyfield. And I remember thinking, I'm a cruiserweight. I'm a cruiserweight. What have I been doing? I'm never a heavyweight. I'm never,
Right.
I was tall, skinny kid,
Yeah.
So, so it was like, right, I've got a plan. And I'd sparred in London. I'd sparred, and there was a manager and a trainer there, and I'd sparred with Pancratius Smith and James Tillis and all Bruno's opponents I'd sparred with, as a 19-year-old. And there was a guy called Bo Williford, and I rang him up in America, and he says, how's it going? I've been reading about you. I know it's all going bad. And I said, well, I've been ill. He says, I told you all the time you were never that weight. I knew it. You were never that weight. I'm sending you a ticket. Come to the States. You're coming to America. So I was on the dole. I said, okay. So I went and I lived and I sat in his garage in Lafayette, Louisiana. And then we started fighting out there, and I started racking up as a cruiserweight, started racking up win after win, and I was thinking, now we're talking. And it was it started to get good. Then Doug Bidwell come back on the scene. He saw, he's back. So then he come back. You're still under contract with me, which we tried to get out of. But then it was so then I'd won 5 or 6 fights. Everything was going great. I got the opportunity to fight for the Commonwealth title in Gateshead, where most of my fights were in Newcastle Gateshead, and against Chisana Moody, who just been in a world title fight, a thrilling world title fight where they both knocked each other down. Him and his opponent both landed at the same time, and the opponent fell on top of him, so he got up first, so he won the world title. So and then I was his next fight for the defending his Commonwealth title, and I beat him in Gateshead, and then I get a phone call from Bo in America saying, congratulations, I've got a job for you. And I said, yeah, it's sparring. I said, well, okay, I'm not making any money here, but he says, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was 21 years of age, the youngest heavyweight champion, knocking out everybody. It was Iron Mike Tyson at his very, very best.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is suicidal. Magic, let's go. So it was just a great opportunity to go. So I went to Atlantic City in the Trump Plaza to spar Mike Tyson. I had 5 weeks, and they didn't expect me. They were giving me hardly any money because they thought I wouldn't last 5 minutes. So they paid my expenses and they paid for a hotel and all that sort of stuff. But I was making something like $250 a week to spar with Mike Tyson, or at least that's what Bo told me I was getting. And I did fantastic against him. But I remember, Bo was on the ringside. James Tillis, top heavyweight, had been sparring Tyson, and then it was my turn to get up. I remember getting up and thinking, "Whoa, this is the heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson." And Bo said, "Just remember one thing: the minute you step through them ropes, you'll never be afraid of anything else." And I go through it. You know what? I did fantastic. I even managed to, which was probably not good. I blacked his eye with my jab. I blacked his eye, which went all over the national press in America. That this skinny cruiserweight had blacked Mike Tyson's eye. So suddenly I got noticed. Suddenly, I got noticed in world events.
Wow!
I went back, fought for the British title, won the British title
because he was renowned for absolutely wiping out sparring partners. He was renowned for that, wasn't he?
But that's why they were on the phone wanting sparring partners, because they would just, they would last. Mike would destroy them. He wasn't one where it was like fair play and all that. It was if you were in this sparring, you're getting paid, I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to destroy you. Right. So fighters were just, you didn't even get to know some of the names. They'd be in one day and stretch it out and gone. And he was, he was at that time, I think he was definitely on course to becoming the best heavyweight ever. He was, and circumstance and going off the rails and, getting married to Robin Givens, Don King coming into his scene that destroyed it. But I was lucky enough to be part of Team Tyson at his very, very best.
Well, I think a lot of people from kind of the era that Tyson was in just
everyone always says the same thing of just literally at that time frame how good he was, like his lateral movement, the way he moved.
I think I was there for Terrell Biggs, which he destroyed him. I was ringside when he's yelping for body shots, and Larry Holmes, which Larry Holmes was a top heavyweight who went on for about another 15 years at a decent level, and he wiped out Larry Holmes, which Larry Holmes was amazing. So that just showed, and then I was due to be there for chief sparring partner for the Spinks fight, because obviously he was a smaller guy, and obviously I was going to be very important. I was chief sparring partner, and Doug Bidwell come back on the scene. Money. We want your spot. I want a percentage of your sparring money. So it was kind of like at the end of my, which was good. It was a good decision because I didn't want to be a sparring partner. I had my own career.
Right.
Did you learn a lot from sparring, Mike? Though.
Learned a lot about defense. I'm paying the price now because I've got serious damage to my spine because of my boxing days. So it's like the footballers. You pay a price for your knees and your hips and all that. The boxers, I'm paying my price now with constant pain, with a disability because of some of the shots I took off Mike and Lennox.
Hey, but like the stories though, the stories, amazing. Muhammad Ali.
It was amazing. But Mike it was Tyson. Funny, because people say Mike Tyson, what was he like, and was he, did he speak to you afterwards? Mike was absolutely lovely. He was like in the ring, he'd be like, you Emma, fuck at this, he'd be swearing at you, he'd be, I'm gonna kill you, white piece of shit. I'd be like, whoa. And then you go out and you're like, hey Glenn, what are you doing? What are you doing later, man? What are you doing? He'd be like, Glenn, come on, we gonna play Space Invader. Okay, mate.
That's a cracking impersonation. But the thing is, I think like we all build people, especially celebrities or ex-sportsmen. We'll put them on a huge pedestal, and a lot of the time, rightly so. But at the end of the day, everyone's just, we're all the same. Fundamentally, it's just we put people on a pedestal. But at the end of the day, at one point, Mike Tyson was that guy who wanted to be a boxer.
Absolutely,
the same as you, who was from Stanley.
Absolutely,
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it was, and that sort of led the way. I won the British title. And then I was because of all the press I'd get, and I would have been ignored by the promoters, because I didn't have the connections, but because I'd done what I'd done with Mike and Black Desire and had all that publicity, I was then in the world rankings. So it was. So I got in the world rankings. Evander Holyfield gave up the belt. He gave up the belt, so it was who's in the mix, and I was in the mix. To get the world title fight, and I got a phone call from Cedric Kushner in America saying, we've got you to fight Para Lumumba, who was, nobody wanted to fight Para Lumumba. He was the one in the top flight that everybody was avoiding. He'd been out sparring Tyson, and he'd been doing really well against Tyson, and all the press were out raving about him. So it was kind of my luck that I would get the toughest kid out there. But the good thing about that fight was Para Lumumba was a Kenyan who boxed as an amateur, was world amateur champion in Sweden or something, and then was with Don King in Las Vegas. So he didn't have any fans. He was surly. It wasn't a charismatic person. He was a nasty sort of guy. So they had no fans. So they're looking for where they're going to have the fight. So they looked for the northeast of England. And so those different bids went in. Obviously, I had Fort Lawton Gateshead and Whitley Bay, but we didn't have a big. There was no big arenas there. There was no big arenas to have it in. And then this mad bid came in from Stanley Council, or Derwentsside Council. Alex Watson, who's
I know
Alex. Yeah, he's a great guy.
I know his son.
Yeah,
as well, Darren.
Yeah, so yeah. Alex.
Lovely bloke.
Forward-thinking guy, the northeast, our area, Derwentsside, had lost the mines, lost the steel. I mean, it was desolate. It was one that it was the biggest unemployment black spot in the UK because we'd lost all of our industries. So Alex had the idea that bringing something, a big fight like that would pick up people's morale.
Yeah.
It was unheard of.
Yeah.
A local council, a Labour council bidding for you don't do that. But they did it, and they brought lots of money into the area, and things, especially concerts, took off. Didn't spend much of it on Stanley though. But I got the chance. So the fight came to Stanley. The world title fight came to Stanley.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it came to Stanley.
No
Louisa
way.
Leisure Centre. Louisa Leisure Centre.
Wow.
And you know what they put on? It was just for the first time ever. I had a training camp. So Matt Murray.
The first time ever.
Matt Murray at the Royal Derwent Hotel put me some porta cabins in a field. Did them all out with settees and beds and all the rest of it. So it was my first ever training camp. I'd never had a training camp.
Right.
So everything, first time ever, everything was done right. And they brought sparring partners in. Alfonso Ratliff, who'd fought Lumumba and gotten beat, who's former world cruiserweight champion. He came in 6'6". People like Dave Garside from the Northeast, some good fighters came as my sparring partner. So I had a proper setup. I had the proper amount of time. I had about 5 weeks training camp. So I was in the running on the moors up at Concert. I was in fabulous shape. I was best shape of my life. And Lumumba came to Stanley. And I remember on the day, I thought, I was feeling really confident. I was buzzing. That training had gone really well. And I picked up the paper, and the headline in the Sun from the same Colin Hart that made such a big deal in my first fight, Glenn's a goner. And it was like, whoa, McCrory won't last. I was a huge outsider, and then it kind of dawned on me. I kind of understand it now. Lumumba doesn't draw flies, but he'll come here to win the world title and then take it back to Las Vegas and Don King and all that. I'm just here to make the numbers up.
Did that not motivate you?
I think it scared the whole camp, because in the dressing room, it was like going to John Gibson, my pal Gibbo was there writing, and a local priest was in there to bless me. My camp were quiet as anything. It was, and it felt like, when you see them old films when the journalists there and the priests there, and you think you're going to death row. So it really felt like, what's going on here? This is I feel like James Cagney. So the guy came in and says, McCrory, you're next. Went out into the corridor. My crew were all just deadly quiet. And Bo Willifer kept saying, just box him. He's a big puncher. Just get your jab going.
Were you more of a boxer?
I was a boxer. Yeah,
you were a boxer, yeah.
Yeah. And he just said, box him, use your footwork, box him. And so that was in my head. Everybody was very, very nervous. And then they opened the doors, and the roof came off. You've never known noise like it. Anybody will attest to. The place was unbelievable. You imagine a couple of thousand Geordies for the first ever world title fight. And I remember thinking, nobody's told this lot I'm going to lose. So the crowd, like the motivation that I got from the crowd was immense. They really, whoa. And then I got in the ring, and nervous, and just box him, just keep boxing him, Glenn. And so they introduced me in the red corner from Stanley, County Durham, Glenn McCrory, gentleman Glenn McCrory. Massive cheer. The roof went off, and then and in the other corner, number one contender from Las Vegas, whatever, Patrick Lamar, and he walked out at the center of the ring and went. I remember thinking, I'm gonna knock your fucking head off. So I'm allowed to swear. Sorry for that. I'm just telling the truth. I remember just thinking, I'm gonna smash you. And I must have said that loud. My little brother's going, no, Glenn. And to be honest, that changed the course of the fight. I just thought, you don't do that. the Stanley lad came out.
Yeah.
You're not doing that.
You didn't stick the nut on him, did you?
I just thought I'm gonna get you as quick as I can, and I hit him with a left hook, and he fell down. The only thing that kept him up was he grabbed me around the legs, so I smashed him. I thought first round knockout. I thought that'll do. And I just he picked himself up. He wasn't down. He just picked him. He fell down my legs. He just picked himself up, and I just started throwing punches. And then the bell went. The crowd were going ballistic, and it was and that Stanley heart and gut.
Yeah,
kind of was the side. I mean, as it happened, he came back into the fight. It started to get really, really tough, and I was starting to I was starting to lose heart a little bit because it was getting so tough. He hit me with a right hand, perforating my eardrum, and so my ear was going. And then I remember leaning over the ropes, and the whole of the Avita Zane cast was there. I remember winking at Tim Healy. still remember thinking, all the Avita Zane.
That's my favourite programme ever, that.
Yeah, all the Avita Zane pet.
We'll get onto that soon, won't we?
and so. But then I looked. My brother David was there, and David wasn't supposed to be there. My mum was looking after him, but David was there, and he was ringside, and he was cheering like man. I remember thinking, "Whoa!" And as I said, David was my, his fight for life was my inspiration all through my career, and I thought, "Whoa, come on, son!"
Yeah,
and that picked me up, and I had a sterling finish, and then heard the words that I dreamt of all my life, the new cruiserweight champion of the world, gentleman Glenn McCrory. And I was handed the mic, and you're thinking, when you get the mic, I'm thinking, I've got to thank somebody. I thank my mum. I'm thinking, what would I think? I thought, you know what, Stanley Dual office. I'm not coming back.
Class.
So that was it. That was the highlight. But
wow.
The downer of that was man. To have a dream that you told all your life, you're not going to realize, and then to realize it, to think, Ali was right.
Wow. Is that the proudest moment of your life?
Yeah, that I don't think anything can top.
Becoming world champion.
Well, not just that, realizing your dreams, realizing, that when you put that goal out there, that I'm climbing Everest, and then you stand, with your flag up there, it's an amazing feeling. But like, with every up, and all through my life, with every up, there's a equal and
there's a huge
So the reality of coming back down the next day was the reality of, then I went to get paid, and got pennies. They just carved up my purse. Bo Williford and Doug Bidwell carved up my purse between them, and I got pennies. So I was almost back on the dole again.
No
and
way.
That was
that world champion.
Yeah, but I wasn't supposed to be world champion.
Wow.
It wasn't. I was from Stanley. There was who's promoting shows in Stanley? Who's doing anything in the Northeast? The Northeast was well behind. So and I didn't have my promoter Cedric Kushner from America. The manager was Bo Williford, and I found out later they'd backed Lumumba. They'd had big bets on Lumumba, my own people.
Right.
So so the writing was on the wall that my next fight was against my promoter's other fighter, who then become number one contender, Cesar McAtini, in Eston. So you know what's going on. They're trying to get you beat. Your own people are trying to get you beat. So I thought that. So I knocked him out in a very, very tough fight in Eston. And then number one contender again, Jeff Lampkin. I'm thinking, this is not how it's supposed to go. I was supposed to get looked after a little bit. And that was Jeff Lampkin. And then, you kind of realize, which is horrible, they brought the fight forward. My own people brought the fight forward, said, it's going to be late March something. And it was like, well, that's just over 4 weeks away. I can't make the weight. I need longer preparation. I'm champion of the world. I need longer preparation. And then you start to realize that, you're you're not meant to be world champion, which is an awful feeling. So I struggled. I killed myself. Literally killed myself for the Lampkin fight. It wasn't even about training anymore. It was just about making the weight.
What? So you actually did have a 4-week window?
Yeah.
No way. Which is like, if you think about it, it's ludicrous to think a fighting camp for 4 weeks.
But that's what my own people.
Right.
Cedric Kushner and Bo Willett, they were supposed to be looking after me.
Right.
And they brought the fight forward. So I honestly, I was my head head was all dipped in with dehydration. You know what I mean, which is really dangerous. I was in terrible state. I was delirious the night before. I wrote a suicide letter. I wrote a note to my wife saying, never let me box again. You know, these people are trying to kill me. You know, it was horrible. And then I went in, and you know, the inevitable happened. I lost, and you know, everybody was sad, and Bo Willett kind of disappeared. I went to the hotel to get paid out 2 days later, and he'd get in a plane home with my purse.
No way.
Yeah, never seen him again.
So did you?
That was my manager. I was 25 years of age.
So did you actually? Was there ever a point where you kind of made some good money from boxing then?
No.
Like actually, really?
No, never.
No way.
Never.
And what was
my biggest payday? After I retired, then 25 years of age, I was just disgusted. I was just my own people that tried to get me. Could have get me killed. So I was Bo had run off with my money. Never saw him, heard from him again. So it was a horrible. It was a really low period. So I quit. Worked in the Wheat Chief pub in Concert.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I know it, yeah.
Well, it became McCrory's.
Yeah.
So I got on a big loan, and I thought, I'm gonna do something different, and then I got a tax bill for £90,000, and I was like, I didn't get a penny, and let's prove it. I was like, how can I prove it? He's gone with my money. Prove it. And I had no advice. I had nobody around me. I had no management. I had, they were America.
Yeah.
So I thought, how am I going to get £90,000? So I thought there was a young fella coming up called Lennox Lewis.
I was waiting for that name to pop up.
So the fella. So I went to the boxing writers dinner at the Savoy in London. I was guest, and who's on the next table? Lennox Lewis, who was making
and did
two fights off the world title. He was European champion.
And was it known kind
Olympic champion?
Was it known kind of? Was it clear to see how good he was and how good he was going to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. But I thought, you know what? I know how to get £90,000, which I'd never earned a portion of that in my whole career. All my purses added up weren't a portion of that. I thought, I know how to get £90,000. So I called Lennox a few choice names. We had a bit of a push and shove at the boxing writers dinner. And
really?
Lo and behold, I'm #1 contender for the European heavyweight title.
Right.
So
promoter's dream. Then.
Yeah, but it was kind of ridiculous. I should have went bankrupt or something, because I knew I wasn't in the I wasn't in the right place. I didn't have a team around me. I didn't have anything to take on somebody like Lennox. Didn't have a training camp. Didn't have anywhere. So the army came to my rescue, and we trained in Catterick Garrison for the Lennox
too far from here.
So it didn't cost me anything, because I didn't have any money to pay for it. And I went in the ring with Lennox and I had to go, give my best. I mean, I would have loved to have fought Lennox a couple of years earlier. That Glenn McCrory and Stanley.
Yeah.
But it would have been a different fight. I'm not saying I would have won it or anything, but it would have been a different fight. But to a guy who was, for the first time in my life, I was just doing it for the money.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of, I got my payday. I got taxman paid off. But I'm back in the same place of skint, and this time skint with I've lost my pride.
Right.
I've lost my pride. So that bugged me. So I had a little while out, and then I come back come back as a heavyweight. Had a couple of fights as heavyweight, and obviously because I'd been world champion and all the rest, I got shot for the second time at the Cruiserweight Championship against Al Cole, and it was going to be the first fight ever in the Soviet Union. So the first fight ever was in Moscow, which had been a communist and all amateur. So we made a bit of history there, and I lost on points to Al in a tough fight. The only thing that went against me is we clashed heads once, and I got right in the nose, and he started piling the pressure on, so I had to take a couple of knee counts. So he got a 10-7 round, and that was kind of the side of the fight. And then I thought, you know what, I can put an end. I was doing Sky. I'd been picked up as a commentator for Sky straight after I won the world title.
Right.
So
and was that a natural transition in terms of, because before you kind of mentioned about you shouted the Stanley, I'm not coming to the door anymore.
Yeah.
In terms of actually, being a pundit and actually delivering down a camera and stuff, was that kind of like, was that you? Was that always you? Were you always kind of good in front of the camera?
Well,
and stuff?
one of the things, one of my passions was, as well as boxing, was film and television, and
right.
I was also doing a bit of acting.
Right.
So I'd done theatre and TV, and so I'd done it. So I was very much into whether my career was going to be, when I come out of boxing, was going to be an actor.
Right.
So that was.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that's where I was kind of heading, and then Sky straight after the world title fight. I was a big historian of boxing. I read everything about boxing. I could tell you everything about Muhammad Ali and all the heavyweights and all of it. So I loved the history of boxing. So that came in,
Because I grew up watching boxing, and you were always like literally the one of the key features on Sky Sports. Like literally all my memories of boxing were kind of like, listening to you talk about it.
Yeah, well, I did an interview with Ian Darke for my world title fight. Ian commentated for the BBC. So I did an interview with Ian for the world title fight, and we had a great rapport. He kind of asked me a few questions that really got me talking, got me going a little bit. And Ian was picked as they got him from the BBC, Sky Sports. It just started this new TV program called Sky, where you had to have a dish, and everybody said, that's not going to work. There's no way that's going to work. I was thinking, I've been to America, I've been in the South, and everybody's got a dish. Everybody's got a dish. I was thinking, they're onto something here. So Ian, because they asked Ian, who do you want as a co-commentator? I said, well, Glenn McCrory's just won the world title, and he talks really well. I can't understand a word he says because it's Geordie. So that was the only thing. So I fit into it really well. The only thing I had to do was work on the accent. Just tone to how you man and all that. Just knock that out of the.
Speak English.
Speak English.
Just speak English.
So that was it. That was the start of 27 years with Sky, which were fabulous. Which were that was just and my life had. This is where I could start telling that the problems were creeping in, because my life was a series of relationships all failed. When I hit low, I'd drink. I'd start drinking, and so I'd have some bad ups and downs. But I always had something. I always had something to get out of bed. I always had something to get me in shape, get me dressed up. I always had something there, even though my life was sort of falling apart. Personally, I had that career that kept me going, and so that was great. I had so many fabulous years with Sky, and covering Tyson's career and Lewis's career and Oscar De La Hoya's and Cesar Chavez's, and being ringside for I would say a great era in boxing. I mean, I'd say it far surpasses what's happening now.
Yeah.
So it was brilliant, and I had the pleasure of working with a great pro like Ian Darke, which brought me on as a broadcaster and a commentator. So much. So they were great years, but they were also behind the scenes. My personal life was up and down and up and down, and broken relationships and marriages and into court over money, and so it was brilliant. Like I'm finding out now why my life was so up and down, and
well, I think you mentioned alcohol, and I think according to the stats, I think men are 3 times as likely to turn to alcohol when they've kind of like in a situation. That was something that I kind of like leaned towards when I was kind of not in a good headspace. Yeah, and it's
you've been through.
it's that escapism, though, isn't it? You kind of you'll get like intoxicated, and then it kind of like takes you away from kind of like the shit that you're going through.
Yeah. How did you deal with going from normal kid in concert to then suddenly fame, like national fame?
Well, I like, when it first happened, absolutely, I was all over it.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the aftermath. Like I remember listening to your talk in Newcastle, and you used the word perception, and when the fame and the money dried up, and then it got to the point where I kind of needed to get a normal job. That kind of like the paranoia, the pride, the ego, massively was like, well, I can't. And I spoke to Johnny Nelson on the podcast that we've done. He said it was kind of like similar. I think it's kind of like if you've a sportsman, or you've kind of like done something where people kind of know who you are. The realization of having to get a normal job, I really struggled with that.
Yeah.
Really, really struggled, because I was just paranoid. I thought I'd cooked all this up in my own head. I thought I'd get laughed at if I had a normal job and stuff. So kind of like, similar path to you, really kind of went down in a really dark headspace, really.
Yeah.
But, the podcast never threw on the towel. I think the power of just not giving up.
Yeah.
You just can't give up, can you?
Yeah. I wanted to do exciting things. I wanted to box. I wanted to act. I wanted to do that, but I never wanted celebrity.
Yeah.
I never wanted celebrity. I think that's. I never wanted anything that come with celebrity. I used to put a mask on. I still do. Put that mask on. This is Glenn McCrory. Hello, how you doing? Where behind the scenes, I can't quite cope with it.
Right, okay. What, naturally kind of more introvert, generally?
Yeah.
Has that led you to dark places?
Very much. I've never been one for, I've been out, you go out, you put your mask on, you go out, you enjoy yourself, but, then you come back home when you drink, to mask that.
Yeah.
And then, we drink drugs then follow, and, and then your relationships get messed up, you're messing about with girls, you become someone you hate. I'm totally against drugs. I hate the whole idea of it, but I've done them. I've done it, but never on like a party. It's like
alone.
Almost, I'd hit the self-destruct button. I couldn't cope. So alone, I'd just hit that self-destruct button and just want to be out of it all. And,
Did you ever feel like giving in?
Man, a million times. I think, David and, my kids, my children, they you constantly got to think of other people. For me, I'd rather just be out here. Me personally, so it's and over the last 4 years, I don't know how you guys handled it, but from me having, you know, a career where you're here, there, and that kind of, you have them ups, you're traveling around, you're in Vegas, you're in New York, you're meeting people, that keeps you.
Your extreme highs, them, aren't they? as
Oh,
well?
yeah, but then the lows would be, just lonely, horrible lows.
And it was around lockdown time.
Lockdown was the
Yeah.
end. Was, you know, because lockdown took away the one thing that kept me going. The one thing that kept me going, and I'd split up with my girlfriend, so I wasn't with my kids, and I'm just by myself. For, 2 years. It was just dire, and you know, and then I got to the point where I couldn't go on, and then lockdown finished, and I got a straight away work. Anthony Joshua fight. You want you speaking to the. Well,
that leads us to that leads us to the story that you shared. So
Yeah.
tell us.
Well,
what
so
happened
we
there.
came out of lockdown. I've got straight away, big job. I'm speaking with Pete Graves. We're doing a speech for the we're guests, obviously ringside guests at the fight, and I'm working as well. I'm speaking to the ringside 5,000 people, £5,000 a head ringside people. So we're in a room, 100 people, tables all nicely lit up, and the staff's going about. I do my talk with Pete Graves, go and sit down at my table, which was the top table, and the waitress comes on. I says, "Excuse me, pet, can I get my starter?" Because everybody else was finishing their starter. "Excuse me, pet, can I get my starter?" And then she goes, I'm thinking, and people was looking at me like, that's weird. What I didn't know was she'd then gone out to tell the staff, "Don't speak to him. He's just called me pet like a dog. He's talking to me like a dog." And that's what, 2 years later, I found that out in court. But she went out. So the next young lady comes in, and they were Asian, young Muslim girl. I later found out from a college. So she turns her back on me, the next one, and I says, excuse me, love, can I get my starter, please?" It's in the bin. It's in the bin. Like, people are kind of smiling at the tail thing. Like, another girl comes out and says, and starts to ignore me. I go, "Love, can I get my starter?" "Oh, there's no starters." So anyhow, I got the main course. I thought, what sort of stuff? I've never been treated as bad in my life. I thought, anyhow, this is early doors because then the fights start. So off we go. A couple of guys around the table say, "Come on, let's get our seats." So we gets our seats, watch the fight. It all went the way I thought it would. Usyk coming out a winner, which I predicted in the room. And then we went down and went back to the hotel. All two weeks later, I get a letter saying, "Can you come to Wood Green Police Station? There's been a complaint." Complaint. So I went down to Wood Green Police Station. That says you're under caution. There's a complaint against you. And I said, "Well, what's?" They said, "Oh, the girl says you called her pet like a dog. One of the waitresses says you called her pet like a dog. Another one said you touched her hand inappropriately." I'm saying, no, hold on. So I explained myself. Anyhow, they said, "Well, I don't think anything's going to happen. The worst that can happen is you get called to magistrate court." But police officer, I don't think that's going to happen. A couple of weeks later, he called the magistrates court in London again. I'm thinking, what is going on here? When that got adjourned, so back up home again, called back to magistrates, adjourned. So, you're trying to forget it and trying to, but you've got this thing of this, as it was then, it was a kind of complaint, a kind of, again, like as if I'd been sort of, outlandish or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I can't remember what section it was. But 6 months later, I just remember picking the mail up from CPS, Crown Prosecution Service. You've been charged with 3 counts of sexual assault carrying 10-year prison sentences for each one. I mean, I was just like absolutely flabbergasted, just distraught, just. And then, a year and a half of just torture, no jobs, everybody dropped me. Friends didn't ring up. Just the most terrible time. So everything, then from being really depressed, you then sink to, and massive lows, not wanting to live, physically trying to get out of here and all the rest of it. So it became a terrible time, which no one should go through. And you've done absolutely nothing wrong. You call someone pet.
It's a cultural difference, isn't it? That,
Well, the world's changing
awareness,
massively.
exactly. Yeah.
Changing massively.
I think this modern day world that we live in now, like it annoys me sometimes just how PC and how you literally you can't say anything.
No.
And I mean,
London
pet. That's it's an endearing
It is
term
a term of
from the
endearment in the Northeast,
from the northeast.
But you can also see someone that's from a different country, from a different culture,
right?
You
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
if you flip it round,
Yeah,
absolutely. If
yeah,
you flip
yeah.
it
No,
round
it's a good
from their
point.
point of view,
No, it's a good point.
You can just say, I can, yes, it's silly, but I can understand.
You would have thought though once
But you would have
common
thought-
sense would have started to prevail.
You would have thought with
Yes.
police, with the CPS,
Yeah.
they would have said. But as
Yeah.
you said, PC, everybody was scared. Everybody all the way through. Even a judge. We had a trial by camera, like a hearing where she could have, the judge could have, she could have ended it there and then, and she said, I think it needs a jury to decide. She wouldn't make that decision. Now, she shouldn't be a judge.
Yeah.
That woman should not be a judge. But because that's her job. But she wouldn't make the decision. She waited till the general public and common sense prevailed. We had a week in court, given all the evidence, and it took about 10 minutes, for them to come back, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, and that's that was great. That was a massive weight. The world lifted a little bit, but nothing changed. And when I spoke to Anthony, the sleep out, it was I wanted to show support because I'm facing homelessness as we speak. I'll be homeless in a couple of weeks. So so nothing getting better. No work's come in. I've never had a single job. Done some charity work, which I'll always try and help people and do my bit. You know what I mean? You've always got to try and do that, but no work. So it's been it's so bad that I'm now I'm on secondary care. I'm under secondary care, which has been a good thing because the lady there, Philippa, who looks after me, has been a godsend because she's tried to get to the bottom of. We've had therapy and tried to get to the bottom of what's wrong. I took a test for ADHD and I think it was top of the class for the first time in my life. She said, remarkable. And then bipolar is I'm getting screened for being bipolar, and at first that's feels like an awful thing, but I think you've got to asking for help is not giving in. Asking for help is refusing to give in, and I think a lot of people have to realize that, because there's a lot of people in the same situation.
I think
as
that's
me.
great, amazing what you've just said there. Aye.
They're great quotes for people
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the thing is as well, Glenn, I think, firstly, thanks for sharing that and literally kind of being so honest and stuff. I think that in itself shows huge respect and but listening to you talk today, the life that you've lived, the stories that you've got, I really feel like, you know, you're obviously not in a good place at the moment, or you're facing adversity, but listening to your talk and your stories, listening to that man, you can fully come back.
And you are a fighter, you are a boxer. What does the future hold?
You know, at the moment, on one hand, it's typical. I'm facing homelessness, and you know, obviously, I've lost everything. On the other hand, I've got good people around me, and you know, being nice to people comes back at you sometimes. And I've got some really good people around me, and we've got something in line, potentially something in line, which I think could really just be a lifesaver for me. That could really just, you know, at my lowest ebb, there's a light.
Another comeback story, mate.
There's another comeback. There's another comeback story, and do not be surprised if it's in Stanley. If it's in Stanley, because we've got a big project that we're looking to do, which we're hoping will you know, brighten Stanley up for a good while. So that's, it's already, you know, it's only, I mean, I have struggled recently really badly, but over the last week or so, you know, suddenly there's a little brightness in my eyes, and I feel like there's a future again. So you know, you've got, you know, I haven't thrown in the towel. I'm still, you know, as you say, I'm still a fighter. I'm still gonna keep trying, and you know, I think we can help a lot of people. I think that's the way forward.
You'll get back. You'll get back. You've done so. You've done the life you've lived. You've done so much. Looking at the life, everything says that you're going to come back.
But you know, in life, you need an opportunity, and you know, and it looks like without any opportunity, life is very hard, and there's no opportunity. And now there is an opportunity with good friends, good capable friends, and I think the future's bright.
Yeah, fantastic. Go on.
No, you go on.
And I think you'll be an inspiration to people listening and watching today, you know, to not give in. And some of the quotes that you've given, I'll take away from this as well.
Yeah.
Well, the end of my book finishes, for better waters, sailing with the wind, my ship of genius sets out her sail and leaves this ocean of despair behind. So that's how my book, Carrie and David, finishes. So.
You're coming back, mate. You're coming back. You're looking fantastic as well.
Thank you. Stanley lad.
And if there's anything we can do to help as well,
give
us a shout.
Thank you. No, well, to be honest, you are helping by getting me here. You know, by sort of reaching out and getting me here. So that's got me out of bed. That's got me dressed. That's got me with a bit of a purpose, and you know, got me in front of a mate again.
And we've got to get you to one of the retreats to do a boxing class.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I think
as long as nobody hits me.
I think it's just them little wins as well, though, that can build momentum. And then next thing you know, actually, things are starting to come. It's just simply that, just, you know, nothing bad lasts forever.
No.
You'll know that with your life experience.
Yeah.
So just keep on going, and I'm hoping, you know, it's been amazing listening to you talk, and hopefully, I think opportunities could come your way, and I certainly think listening to your story, you could help a lot of people, like listening to your mindset and stuff.
I think at this stage in my life, that's what I want to do, you know, because when so much has happened to you, and you finally, you know, I wish I'd had them, you know, that help when I was a kid, you know, because that I wouldn't have had to go through all them dips, and so, you know, I think we need to help young people nip it in the bud, get them sorted out, get them on the right track when they're young, and there's a lot said about, you know, mental health, but often it takes too much. You know, they have to go too far before people see them or people talk to them. And it's, you know, talking them on the phone. If somebody's asking for help, get out and see them. Get out and see them. You know, I was in a dire state last December, you know, and it took till the April for me to see anybody. And I was, you know, ready to end my own life in December, and it took to April. Now, that's not good enough. You know, so much talk about mental health. We need action.
Yeah.
People need to be straight out and straight doing stuff. And you know, I'm lucky that I've got good people around me now doing, you know, helping me out.
I think that's like that's what we're all about with the Never Throw on the Towel project. It's like it's such a huge problem. Now that I talk to men for a living, being a barber. Yeah. And now that I've kind of like, you know, with the Never Throw on the Towel project and stuff, and I'm kind of doing it for a living. You get to see more how bad of a problem it is, and still not that much is getting done. And this is why we're trying to kind of take the, you know, actually try and tackle the problem, especially.
Well, you're doing a great thing because you are tackling it. You know, getting people to exercise. Yeah. You know, getting people to talk. That's fundamental. You know, if you can get people out, because, you know, so long I was locked up. You know, just locked up. Couldn't face anybody because of the shame. You know, because, you know, just you know, because you think everybody thinks, you know, you've done it. You know, you've done it. There's something in it. So you hide, but getting out, getting people out, going for walks, and you know, I just wish somebody could just push England a bit further down into the Med, just so we had a bit of sunshine. Because the sunshine, for me, I don't know what it's like for you or anything. Yeah. But when the sun shines, it's just happy days.
Yeah. And Glenn, I personally want to wish you all the best for the future. Please, let's keep in touch.
Well, 100%.
Well, one last story. 100%. One last story in. Well, one last question from me, and it's like the life that you've lived is unbelievable, and the stories, and you've probably already answered this question because you've told some unbelievable stories. But we want to finish the podcasts on. Tell us your best story. What that you're allowed to say on the podcast?
My best story.
Is there anything that's been? I mean, you probably told it with the Muhammad Ali. I don't think you can kind of beat that story, can you? Or maybe it's the Mike Tyson one.
We're going to Cuba and bringing two Cuban boxing coaches back for the first, you know, to strike a deal with a communist country and go out to Cuba and actually, you know, bring two Cuban coaches back and to meet and, you know, have some great nights with Teofilo Stevenson, who is the Muhammad Ali of the amateurs, who is an Olympic legend, and you know, I wish we could have helped him because, you know, he died with you know, alcohol, but having nights out with Teofilo were just the greatest nights, and he would have a water bottle with him, and we'd be you know, so we'd be buying dinner for him and his family and his water bottle, he'd be drinking his water bottle, and it'd be then his wife would carry him home, and it's funny, but, you know, there's a serious side that, you know, he was an Olympic legend, you know, in Castro's, and he had a tiny little bungalow, a little rattle around car. This is what they, you know, and he was better off than most of them. But you know, I wish we could have helped him because, you know, alcohol finished him off, and you know, there's lots of people that need that sort of help. But I don't know if it's a good story, but
yeah,
you know, I'm barred from Cuba now. Actually, to be honest, I don't get barred from pubs. I get barred from Cuba, from countries. we had it's not about. I'll tell you quickly, but the two coaches were great, you know, and they helped a lot of kids in Newcastle. You know.
Well, I remember you used to do. I'm sure I used to like attend a lot of the shows in Newcastle.
Yeah,
and
we did.
The Cubans.
We had to raise.
The new role was there.
Yeah. We had to raise the money to keep these two guys over here. So we had them over a couple of years, and as you can imagine, they were in a flat together. Sooner or later, you know, So it got to a point where they were rolling around the floor in the gym, you know, with the kids and hitting each other and starting to get angry at the kids and all the rest of it. So we had to send them home. And obviously I couldn't, I knew if I sent them home and said, like, you know, we can't deal with them anymore, you know, the badly behaved and all that, they would have been in big trouble, you know, for letting, you know, they'd have been in big trouble. So we couldn't say that. So we just, you know, sent them home. So I get a letter from Cuba saying that you owe us such and such money, and you've reneged on the deal. We're taking you to some European court. So that's how we left it. So that's how we left the deal. So I'm not going back to Cuba.
Well, it's. I think that's a wrap, really. I think thanks, Glenn. Thanks so much for being here, telling your story,
pleasure,
and
thanks.
never
Thanks
never
for
thrown the
brightening my
towel.
day. No.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Cheers,
buddy.
mate.
Thank you,
Glenn.
Cheers.